Man, so this week, listening to some sports talk radio, and it came up that if Kawhi wins the championship this year, he has the opportunity to move up into the top 10 or top 5 players of all time. And for so many reasons, I have an issue with this, but the big argument for it was because he wins. He was the Finals MVP in 2014 for the Spurs. He was the Finals MVP this past year for the Raptors. And if he were to win this year, he would likely be the Finals MVP for the Clippers. And I hear that argument, but here's where I struggle to deal with it. For one, he just doesn't have the raw numbers so far at this point in his career. He's only 9 years in, and he hasn't won an MVP yet. Yeah, he won an All-Star Game MVP, but that's just one game. He has not been a regular season MVP. And he load manages, and I think that's problematic. But the biggest argument for me against Kawhi is that he doesn't create a culture. Kawhi is a great basketball player, but if you look at his successes, he's been a byproduct of the culture that he's been inserted in. It's like he's been the perfect fit into each slot that he's had the opportunity to go to. Look at the Spurs. He goes there as a late lottery pick. He's surrounded by one of the best coaches in NBA history, one of the greatest players in NBA history, one of the greatest cultures in NBA history. You have the Spurs culture. You have Tony, Manu, Pop, and Timmy. It gives him time to grow up, learn, develop, learn how to shoot, learn how to play the game as a guard because as a wing, he was a big man coming out of high school. But he wasn't forced to grow up immediately. And that's no knock to him. Like, it's great. We all want to go to a job where we're allowed to develop into who we're supposed to be so that we can be our best selves. That happened to Kawhi, but in that finals, he only averaged 17 points per game. And he was a byproduct of the great Spurs culture. He still was not the best player in that organization, in my opinion, at that time. It was not his team. It was Tim Duncan's team. Let's go to next year. Was he the best player on the Raptors? Absolutely. Was he the key that got them over the hump? Absolutely. But let's be real. The Raptors have created a great winning culture up there. Championship culture? No. But were they consistently a top team in the East? Yes. Had Masai Ujiri put together a great team and then had the opportunity to move DeMar DeRozan and another young player to get Kawhi Leonard, a top 5 player in the league currently, and Danny Green, one of the better veteran role players in the league. Yeah, you can't be mad at him for making that move. And I think it was a great move. But again, in the games that Kawhi didn't play, they had a similar winning percentage. And if you look at the Raptors right now, they're looking pretty good. They're one of the better teams in the East. Siakam took a step up. And, I mean, it's not like they traded Kawhi. They lost him in free agency. And guess what? The team is still at the top of the East, and they have a great chance of winning the East this year and making it to the finals. Great culture. And finally, the Clippers. The Clippers were an 8th seed last year, but since Doc Rivers has been there, they have been consistent winners, despite the talent that they've had or lack thereof last year, quote unquote lack thereof. They've created a great winning culture. They have players who play the game a certain way, quote unquote, the right way. And then you insert Kawhi Leonard and Paul George into an already playoff team. And yes, they become one of the favorites to win an NBA championship. So I don't know if they're going to win a championship. But my thing about Kawhi is he doesn't bring a culture to where he's at. He's played for great coaches. And don't get me wrong, a lot of great players have played for great coaches. He's played for Pop. Nick Nurse is a young coach in the league, but he's a favorite to win Coach of the Year this year, and he has already won a championship. He's playing for Doc Rivers, a previous Coach of the Year and an NBA champion. one of the most respected coaches in the league. So he's been the perfect screw into each system that he's gone into. And it's not a knock on his talent, but to put him as a top 5 guy, all time, a top 10 guy of all time, I just can't get behind that argument because he's the guy who's benefited from most situations. And oftentimes we've downed LeBron for changing teams. We've downed KD for changing teams. But we're going to praise Kawhi for winning three rings with 3 teams. I just find that to be just an inconsistent argument.